Just a little bit about my background is I am an astrologer now, and I'm not embarrassed of that. It took me a long time to say that. My background was Wall Street. So for the first 12 years of my life, I worked on Wall Street. I made tons of money, was very aggressive in my 20s. And then I had the good fortune in 2000 to come to India on my first spiritual pilgrimage. And I got something called knew.She astrology, which is this ancient palm leaf astrology. You just give your thumbprint. So I did my knew.She astrology. In that reading, it told me go to these temples. And I went to these temples, and I felt some good energy and everything. I felt a lot of hang-ups I had go away. But what was remarkable is when I went back to New York City, I became this, I don't know who came out, but a new person came out. My potential came out. I became a great communicator. I became a great negotiator. And about 2-year period after returning from India, I closed about $4.5 million in business, which was something I never conceived was even possible for me. So what happened a short time later is I had met this amazing Vedic master who I studied with consequently. But he said the words which I was dreading. He said, why don't you get involved with astrology? And I was like, oh no, anything, you know. And if your guru or your teacher is asking you, you can't say no. You know, but I'm from Wall Street. And he said, get involved in astrology. So I was like, okay, holding my breath. I was like, what would you like me to do? And he said, oh, no, don't worry. Just send a few emails, mark it. And I was like, oh, thank God. I don't have to learn astrology. And so I sent a few emails. And over time, though, I learned astrology. And I found out how amazingly scientific it is and how much these ancient rishis and masters of India were so much more evolved than we are now. I think the modern human, in many ways, has lost that innate intelligence that these seers knew. So in the short time I have today, what I'd like to do is share with you some of their secrets that I've learned over the last 12 years. The Supreme Court of India actually ruled in 2004, astrology is a science. And I don't know if you knew that, but I was so happy when I heard that. Astrology is a science. And what is science? We're talking about technology here. Science is technology. It's the application of scientific knowledge for practical purposes. So it has to be practical for practical purposes. How do you get ahead? How do you make more money? How do you solve your relationship problems? It has to be for practical purposes. Okay, so we're all familiar with time chronologically. And on this diagram here, just as a refresher, we're all familiar with it. The Earth goes around, we get one day. The moon goes around the Earth, we get one lunar month. And the Earth goes around the sun, and we get one solar year. So we're all familiar with this. We're familiar with Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But even Einstein, with all his phenomenal contributions to time and space, knew about the psychological and emotional aspects of time. We've all had that experience when you're with your boyfriend or your girlfriend. 1 hour seems like 5 minutes, and you're like, where'd the time go? That's a very emotional aspect of time. But what I'd like to do for practical purposes in this session is go over the financial aspect of time. So maybe you're in your career right now and you're making $10 an hour. Your value of time is $10 per hour. Now, someone else, for whatever reason, their karma, their destiny, is making $1,000 per hour. They're valuing time at $1,000 per hour. Two people valuing time very differently, what their time is worth. Now, how do you go, let's say, for example, you're making $50,000 a year. And in 10 years' time, if you keep that up, you'll make $500,000 at the end of 10 years. It'll take you 10 years to make $500,000. So here's the interesting kind of spin to this, which I've actually learned from the Rishis, which is, now, how do you compress time? How do you get that $500,000 now and not in 10 years? Well, the question is, you have to make that $500,000 in 1 year. If you can make $500,000 in 1 year, you've compressed 10 years of work time into 1 year. You have successfully compressed time. So, of course, to do this, the first step is to put that in your mind that it's even possible, because we're so caught up in our world. So first, obviously, is putting that thought in your mind. I can make $500,000 in 1 year. And that alone will start to attract possibilities and open up new dimensions to your mind, which you've never even explored before. But there's an astrological component to it, and I wanted to bring in the astrology now of how to make this happen. So it comes to the planets, and there are some planets, we're all influenced by the planets. I don't want to give a lesson so much in astrology, but all of us are influenced by the planets, and we all have our good planets that are going to bring us good things, and bad planets, which will bring us bad things, or malefic planets. There are planets that control your money, and if there was enough time, I would love to tell each of you what your money planets are. But you can go online and you can have a consultation with an astrologer and just find out. Just ask them one simple question. What are my good planets? What are my bad planets? Which planets bring me money? So as soon as you know that, let's say, for example, your money planets are Venus and Moon. Okay, just for example. You'd have to go to an astrologer and just ask him these two simple questions. So in every day, from morning to night, every hour is controlled by one planet in Vedic astrology. It's called Ahora. It's really hard to read this because it's a little light, but on a Sunday at sunrise, for the first hour of the day, there's a planetary energy governing called on Sundays it's the sun, obviously Mondays it's the moon. So it's that first hour of the day that governs the sun. So if you really want to start working with time and working with the good times, let's say Venus is your money planet, right? Do you want to wait 10 years? No, you want to take advantage of that Venus time. So on a daily basis, and you can get these charts for free on the internet, you can go, okay, Venus is from 7:30 to 8:30, and then it's again there, it usually occurs 3 times a day, from about 2 until 3, 2:15 to 3:15, and it occurs 3 times a day. During those hours, that's when you ask your boss for a raise. That's when you ask, Dad, I need a new car, you know, whatever it is. That's your strategic time, you know. So you have to know the good times and the bad times. And if it's not the good time, if it's the Saturn time and Saturn's not a good planet for you, you have to work with that. So let's say you have a bad planet, like maybe Saturn is a bad planet for you. He's a taskmaster for most people. Say Saturn controls your money. Does that mean you're doomed to only make $50,000 a year? Don't give up. Astrology is only there to tell you the weather forecast and make you intelligent on how to use time. It's not there to create your destiny. If you don't do anything and you're kind of go with the flow and you just kind of let things happen, karma will take hold. But if you consciously create and take control, it's just a weather forecast. So let's say you're in a Saturn time. There's different times of Saturn. I can't go into here, but you're in the Saturn time, and Saturn's not a good money planet for you. So that means during those Saturn times, you have to become very, very alert. Maybe find another planet that can help you, or just don't do the money things during those times. That's just on the daily basis. There's also something I want to introduce just quickly here. There's so much I would love to share with you, but something useful for you to take with this. There's something called 5 elements of time. And I think that's on the next slide. You can get this from a lot of websites. This is from my company, AstroVed.com. There are different elements of time. There are 5 that are known. So a nakshatra, which is these constellations we see, we always forget to look up. We know that the stars influence us, but we don't know how. So there's something called a nakshatra, or a star of the day, that rolls every single day. And it's based like if you're standing on Earth and you look at the moon, there's a star behind that moon. And that star is a sun, millions of times bigger than our own sun. It has so much energy, and it's affecting us. So during certain days, those stars have positive or negative influences on us. And again, as beginners, you can just look it up. The moon phase is very important. Women are highly connected to the moon phases. So much so that I had to rein in our astrologers at the company because they wanted to do like, oh, we can talk about where you should touch a woman on which phase of the moon. I'm like, no, that will not be distributed. You have to know that the woman is the moon in Vedic astrology is goddess Parvati. She's pure Shakti. So the phases of the moon, women are very in tune to. So the important ones are like the full moon. That's great for prosperity. The 11th moon, great for prosperity. New moon, you don't want to be doing a lot of material things. It's a good day for meditation. There are days to remove your obstacles, good days for health, if you want to do something for health. And if you go to the next one, just quickly, there's 2 other technical ones. One's called a yoga, which is how much of the sun's energy is reflected from the moon back to Earth. And then the next one, I'm going quickly through these, is karna, which is a half phase of the moon. And then the last one, the days of the week. And just to finish up here, everybody who is wearing red can you please stand up just for a second? Anyone who's wearing anything at all red? Okay. All right. For anyone wearing red, did you consciously say, oh, I'm going to wear red today, knowing that red? Great. So all the people who are wearing red color today are naturally in tune with the sun, with confidence and authority. So for whatever reason, you have blessings from the sun today. And I can tell that just by the color you're wearing. The sun is blessing you. Today's the 13th moon, and it's in a star called Arudra, which is the birth star of Lord Shiva. So what that means is today's 13th moon, it's a day called Pradosham. So I know today at sunset, if I can recommend one thing for you to do, is pray to Lord Shiva to change your destiny. That is his hour. 2 hours before sunset today, just make those prayers. Believe me, the energy is there. Lord Shiva is there. If you know when to act and how to act, the energy is there. And today is his birth star, and it's a 13th moon. Okay, so if I had to summarize anything in my short time, is there are shortcuts to time too. And the shortcuts to time is one is to become aware of this. Just learn your good, bad planets. Okay, shortcuts to time. Obviously, meditation and alertness, becoming aware. Don't let your mind just drift, become aware. And you can do that by watching the Ahoras. Watch what planet affects you. If every day you're like, oh, that was such a challenging moment, just check really quick, what Ahora was that? What planet was ruling? And you will see a pattern. Your personal experience is critical. Your personal experience is very important when working with astrology. And then finally, naughty astrology, other shortcuts, rituals from God like Pradosham today, praying to God. Those will also give you shortcuts and intervention in the karmic times.